Okay, ready? Here we go! Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. You know the story. This isn't working. Acclaimed game dev studio Platinum, can you? Okay, thanks. MGR is all about cranking the knob on the oven, you then keeping the action on simmer until it boils up and over, so we're gonna keep it down for a bit. I understand Metal Gear fans like it quiet. In fact, this is my first Metal Gear game. Ever. And maybe it's a weird place to start, you know, chronologically following the final game's events, but it's a spin-off, and it's fun, and you really don't need to know a lot to jump in. Spoilers for MGS4 and all that, but I am ready to get that cuts! Look at that!
Wow! Whoa! I'm literally Raiden!
Yeah, if you study hard, maybe you'll learn to cut your hair.
Okay, wow. Hurtful, actually. Why would you say that?
Just get back to your video.
Behind the scenes, I've now played most of the Metal Gear games, and one of the weirdest threads of discourse you come across is the convolution problem. Reminds me of Kingdom Hearts, actually. Everything's too confusing, and I will say many of the mainline games deliver information poorly through endless cutscenes, text crawls, a lot of military jargon and other nouns of great import. And voice acted or not, it gets boring to sit through, so stuff starts falling between the cracks. But hey, all the weird premises make for good gaming. Rising's a great intro to Metal Gear in this sense. It lets you catch on to the universe in medias res. People interrupt you with text, but it's mostly fluff.
But first you need to take a...
There aren't a lot of twists or recontextualizations of character relationships. It's a pretty simple plot. Raiden's a cyborg ninja now. He's hunting down a bunch of child brain harvesters. His rival's a cyborg samurai named Sam.
That's funny, bud.
And he stops a delusional libertarian from getting elected. Now, that's a set of policies I can get behind. And just like its plot, it's a pretty simple game to get a hold on, except the part where that's not true, but the basics make immediate sense, right? You're a cyborg ninja, you can hold a button to do micro-platforming for free, while going fast. You run from place to place, getting into scraps, turning dudes into scraps. It's a real violent game, but you only need 2 buttons to do most of your violence. You can handle 2 buttons, right? There's extra missions for nerds, little diversions and bonus objectives, codec calls, collectible arms, and other junk. It's a Metal Gear game, that all checks out, and it's neat. But the main point is to run and do it again. It's an action game. You'll power Raiden up, unlock bonus weapons, and do some new moves. Some of the time.
What did Kojima mean by this?
What's really important is that most of that stuff isn't necessary. It's a perfectly speedrunnable game and cut down to its base form, very clearly designed for quick play. But that entire lead-up was logistics. Cranking the knob, not necessarily like the oven this time, but you gotta cover your bases, you know? Getting into the reasons people like talking about this game. We'll do the whole mechanics thing, but the story, the narrative deserves some words. You know, it's pretty easy to imagine a game like this in the Metal Gear setting. What was once a dark slink through Shadow Moses rapidly spun out of control into something far wilder. But to be fair to the later games, wacky and wild was always part of Metal Gear. You know, it's the perfect soldier versus freaks, for lack of a better word. I can see some fans getting a little leery about the level of, comedy. Oh, yeah. Metal Gear Rising has characters?
Swallow all them phantoms in black clothes that eye pass me?
Cheers, I'll drink to that, bro.
The new cast fits the lineage of Metal Gear, and many, especially the bosses, are perfect for the shifting gameplay from mostly stealth to mostly murder, set in a timeline where war has changed and war economy is central to the universe presented. Rising works with old premises and weaves a strong narrative fabric that makes at least some inquiry into concepts like individuality, justice, power, whether otaku have rights. It's not taking timely but now fairly outdated potshots at video game violence like other games in the lineage. It's fully embraced violence for the sake of making good-ass video games trademark, period. Metal Gear often felt like an attempt at an action movie. Rising is probably the only actual action movie of the games. Constant threats, raising the stakes, turnabouts, actual pacing, a villain that mirrors much of the protagonist, so there's a lesser version of himself to mimetically beat down at the end of his arc. All that aside, I don't have much to say about the story because so many people have said it before, but Raiden himself deserves some discussion. This is a character with history who starred in his own game, and while I've played those games now, I found it a bit weird how often this one scene gets done dogged by fans and reviewers. So Raiden's been fighting his little battles, pursuing the bad guys, and up until this point, justified it with doing the right thing and justice, and a bunch of other stuff we don't buy because the villains directly counter with, well, you've been doing a lot of painting the walls lately with humans. Because yeah, Raiden's been a vicious murderer the whole game, and there's no way his child soldier salvation mission neatly justifies taking all those lives. People who went to war, or became cops, I guess, because that's how life worked out for them.
Get the feel.
The villains aren't dissuading him here, by the way. It's the equivalent of trying to call out the hypocrisy of whatever boss in your D&D campaign. Like, you know it's not gonna make him stand down.
But KBash, what about the memes?
There's a pretty meme. Exquisite.
Get out of here.
Anyway, Raiden does something I really love that other people I respect have called, quote, torpedoing his character, and I don't have an enormous history with these games, to be fair, but I happen to really like what they did with Raiden, because it was all bullshit. He didn't care about the good. He didn't care about who he hurt. The stealth mechanics weren't strong enough, bro, and the game knows it. He did all that killing because some part of him liked it. Raiden's always been the player insert, not the legendary Snake, but the guy who wants to be him. And players love video game violence. Raiden had the power and turned the army employed by his enemies into ribbons for big revengeance, because he can't stand to see kids put through what he was, right? For his own reasons, because that's his war to wage. Setting aside that this scene's a decent integration of narrative and mechanics demonstrated by the now unlocked Ripper mode, it's an overpowered devil trigger. Setting aside that motivation makes perfect sense considering MGS2's finale and Raiden's resolution to fight for himself, it's necessary to make Armstrong's character shine by comparison, because without this narrative thread, Armstrong's just an insane bad guy with stupid ideas. As it stands, they could be on the same side, save for a few moral scruples. For two killers, that's powerful. It humanizes the villain. It humanizes Raiden, makes his struggle worth having. It's not just some me good, kill evil now. Jeez. Actually getting worked up here. Well, if there's one thing this game's good at, let's get into mechanics and other stuff. I'll be honest, I like Rising quite a bit, but getting into it was a feat, probably because of the learning curve. Not that the game doesn't teach you. I mean, read the manual, look online, there's answers, and the game does quality boss challenges. You're always being pressed to demonstrate mastery over one element or another of the game's mechanics.
Like, I get not wanting dead cats in your game, but like, man, Raiden can't do anything.
The first guy's a hard and fast introduction to the combat's most basic elements, mostly ninja run. Blade Wolf forces parrying, even if the text tutorial is a total lie.
To parry incoming hits, throw out your own barrage of light attacks while your foe is on the offensive.
Because attacking into enemies absolutely does not parry attacks. Mistral wants you to focus on her, target a segment of her staff in blade mode, and deal with other things mid-fight, so like a multi-challenge fight. Monsoon requires you to parry in succession and with very little warning in any direction. Sundowner does a few little things, but mostly reiterates that blade mode precision is important. These are all important lessons and great ways to cap off individual levels, while the action, alongside player's skill, is rising. But for all that practical tutorializing, the game's just hard. Not like Ninja Gaiden hard. You won't often be totally stonewalled. It's hard in small, stupid ways. So, smallest to biggest. The entire sub-weapon and secondary weapon thing, it's done like a Metal Gear game. You gotta pause, select your stuff, and you're re-equipped. Fine. And to be very clear, you don't need any secondary weapons or even items, though healing will make the game more playable on first pass. But hiding this stuff in a pause menu, in an action game, especially when, at times, you'll have to whip out an anti-air rocket launcher or whatever, it's annoying. It isn't smooth. It's less elegant than the old Metal Gear games, which at least let you retain a visual on the action with simple sidebars. And like I said, most of that stuff is superfluous. There was maybe one time near the end where I thought, you know what? I will stun grenade those guys. And it's all slow and clunky, all of it, which is a shame because the game kind of sells the play your way thing, but you're only ever gonna want to cut dudes. So miscellaneous items are supplements, but very weak most of the time. The entire stealth thing is a farce. I get it. Kojima probably asked real nice, but can you keep this stealth though? So we get the old cardboard box. Speaking of which, I love this. Okay, time to stealth it up. And it's an okay thing, it's just that very little exists to make sneaking viable outside of pure player knowledge and skill, so just abandon that early on. I actually can't believe how often your friends get pissed at you for not being stealthy, as though the game really highlighted that as the preferred style of play intuitively. It does not do that. At least the secondary weapons are kinda cute. Do some funny junk. But you can ignore all that stuff and move on. The real trouble starts with blade mode and ends with parries. And for your information, I like these systems a lot. They're really cool when you've got a grip on them. The problem is, I think 50% of players might have quit before ever getting halfway through because the game is constantly shrieking every single solitary, minute, minuscule error in your face until you figure those systems out. Blade mode rage. It's like this.
Give me a break, man. Yup, just everything but the spine.
And parry rage is the result of directional inputs failing to dudes with Heelys. Love it.
The game demands precision to efficiently murder enemies and recover your health via spine-thieving foolery, and it's just not easy. Sometimes the game throws you into stupid angles, it just doesn't work all that well all the time. And of course, it's a dang old barrel of monkeys. When you got the hang of it, you slurp spine juice like a bad analogy for someone who does that. But the angles, the detection, the multiple times it makes you perfectly line up multiple cut points with a single slash, and failure means damage or death. Oh, it's fun on playthrough 1! And don't even with the parry stuff. Some people deflect haha about this junk like the parry system's perfect, and it is pretty good and satisfying. I like that it's on the attack button. I like aggressively parrying in a dude's face for a big hit, because any other parry method might have cranked the knob down, and I like my simmer as such. But attacks are accompanied with a little visual indicator, the glow, the you know what I'm talking about, and very often you won't be able to see, or it doesn't appear at all when the enemy isn't in front of you. Enemies skirt around, they're schmoovin'. You can't parry everything because of poor visibility. I think that kinda sucks. So you learn with time either to do it by ear or to position yourself better, but that's what I'm saying. You'll either have your heart stolen by the game, or be forcibly ejected from the experience. Loving this game is to walk on the edge of a blade. So what's the big idea, KBash? What's the deal? What's the payoff? Let me tell you, every bit of the game is challenging, and that's something that can't be said in terms of modern game design sensibilities. And in mountains of modern games, the reward is nothing. Superficial power through numbers, more junk to do. All that crap no one cares about 40 hours later because they're done or didn't get there. Rising, however, it's a short but quality experience, especially when you know what you're doing. Yes, rooms are linear. Yes, the game plays out nearly the same every time, but you're the rogue factor. How badass the game looks and feels comes down to you, because the controls and the skills are in your hands. But it's not content to just coast. Rising throws incredible, unbelievable, campy as good-ass video game set pieces at you just when the action's at a fever pitch. So much of this game is so sublime, because while a lot of this could happen in Metal Gear, even other video games, nobody sells it as hard as Rising. Burn these shots into your brain because you won't find them elsewhere. We're getting hog wild, son! The music is not a genre I would listen to, but do you think I want depressing or airy tones in this absolute meat grinder? These tracks are perfect. They're perfect. The introduction of lyrics right when the hits the fan, the absolute dynamism. I'm gonna buzz! Because when all the elements work, the game is fun. And God, those boss fights! Sam will never not be Virgil's absolute equal, at least in my mind. What an awesome battle. And Armstrong, it's the final exam, the big test, the perfect confluence of every skill you've learned. What do you even say?
Oh, come on!
This fight is exactly why I think that scene I mentioned works. You need Armstrong to be a physically stronger you, and he is. You need him to be a charismatic Looney Tune, and he is. You need his ideology to have significant crossover with Raiden's. Both men believe in fighting their own battles, but it's Raiden who wants to protect the weak, and Armstrong who wants to privilege the strong. And that's the divide. Both men will do anything to make their visions reality. Both transgress functioning human morality, but at the end of the day, one has good intentions and the other's a libertarian, even a Randian objectivist. He wants to end governmental control, and sure, makes sense in a post-MGS4 world where governing bodies bodies can literally control soldiers and their guns, and it's not totally beyond human understanding, and frankly, people think like this now. Might makes right, and do as you please, and government not efficient, burn the government, and every other disgusting, socially and morally repugnant abortion of thought is what Armstrong stands for. His ideas are alluring in the moment, but don't hold up to scrutiny. Raiden said, "Hey y'all, I'm scrutiny." That's it, Metal Gear Rising. Great time, highly recommended. Just know you're in for a screech or two off the record. It's okay, we've all been there. It's rare to get a game with pure focus, tons of extra content, the 2 DLCs included in most versions of the game today, which by the way, you can play Sam. Why would you ever not want to play Sam? Now if you'll excuse me, I have to recover from the raw energy. Woo! Mama Mia, son. Hey, it's KBash. Special thanks goes out to my $4 patrons, whose names are on the screen. The show's on its way somewhere good thanks to the community's generosity. And special thanks goes out to my extra generous patrons who are... Alexa, Andy Blarg, Arch, Basement Dweller, Big Bye Crybaby, Boha, Brios, Cal, Can I Cuss on Here? Caesar T, Cordant, Chris A, Christo 009, Cody Golden, Corgi the Lad, Couch MOBA, CW Glassworks, Kyle Lapreed, Daddy Dagoth, Dakota Storm Jones, Dondium, Danky Stank Swanky Make, Dara, David Castillo, Den Het, Dylan Coffee, 8-Bit Funk, LPO, Elsa, Annex, Aesthetico, Exa, Frankenstitch, Glyph Seeker, Guard Corey, Gucci Plant, Hatsune Miku's Crack House, Harkaj, Heman Gamin Station, Huey, Ingenious Clown, Irradiated Cherries, Ice Kyle, Ivy Ruth Langley, Jason Lasky, Jaden, J-Daz, John Weber, Joke Frog, Keegan Too Cool, Clocked, Creighton, Crazy Dark Chocolate, Latrix, Laundry Mom, Lego Sid, Loki, Lon, Lucas Boyd, Magical Madman, Marcules, Maximilian Wolfgang Niver, Mike DeVR, Milky Moo Official, Mitchellanius, Mr. Dodongo, Niranu, Nito Torpedo, Old Burgle, Old Man Cranberry, Only LK, Gaplant, PK Gaming, Quasar McDougal, Quinn, Reasonable Willow, Reggie Rodriguez, Ricochet Frame, Sagitrash, Siren Smells Good, Salty Smasher, Sam Vertigo, Sekai no Awarida, Shod, Silver Bear 909, Simp God, Slagathor, Sleepy Wabbit, Space Lizard, Special Children, Spooky Grimalkin, Squishword, Sublime Cataclysm, Super Katsanova, Super Sandwich Guy, TFY Lex, The Big Bubby, The Salt Knight, Thrips Heartrop, Travis Edwards, Twiddle Chungus, V01156, Vid, Venom, Vice Pup, Viewers Like You, Vic, Walter Taggart, Waposa, Weeb Trash, Well Shit, Zanny Tanner, Yay Kundo, Zachary V, Zanaso, Zane the Impure, Zane the Pure, Zed Slayer Gamer, Cyberbunk. If you'd like to help support the show and make it even better, check out my Patreon. We've got all kinds of goals and lots of rewards in store. Stay tuned for more. KBash out.